Hello, and welcome to part last, I hope. Okay, so we were talking about shared conceptual maps. And folks, shared conceptual maps are how we create shared meaning. Okay, the shared conceptual map means that I can say table. I can write the word table, and you know what I mean. This is how meaning happens. Every culture across the planet has a representational system. And every representational system for the people to create meaning relies on a shared conceptual map. Now, this is one of the reasons why people who speak multiple languages, sometimes, or actually, not sometimes, they have better access to both parts of their brain because they are constantly having to translate. People who speak multiple languages, especially if their native language is different than where they're living or going to school or working or whatever, because that native language is sort of the base that we work from, and everything that you come into contact with, you're going to try to make fit in some form or fashion. And so people who speak multiple languages have to be very creative because sometimes there's a one-to-one translation and it's easy, right? So, if I'm saying table and I wanted to translate it to Spanish, it's mesa. There you go, okay? But sometimes those things don't add up. You have to translate, and you have to figure out a way to make it mean something in the way that you understand best. And so these maps don't always line up. These maps don't always line up intergenerationally among people in the same culture. And so this idea of a shared conceptual map is really important. And folks, Brandon's parents, by the way, they would never do this. My parents were lovely people, okay? And they didn't actually do this. It's just an example. You have chicken and you have table, and folks, you have to keep it like this. You have to keep the table with the table and the chicken with the chicken, because it's the way the meaning happens, and it has a deeper link to the ways we understand the world. Brandon could not go through life calling a table a chicken, okay? Brandon could not go through life doing this and this. And chances are, if that really did happen to me, my base understanding would always be the flat thing with the four legs as being chicken, but everybody else calls it a table, right? Oh, and the bird, everybody else calls that a chicken, right? I would still probably have to continue to translate like that. Maybe over time it would become no big deal, but that would be the base from which I work from. So folks, when we're dealing with communication, I like to talk about all of this because I want to add a perspective or definition that takes us deeper and really makes for a good discussion over the course of a semester in interpersonal communication. So we will be defining interpersonal, okay? Right now we're doing the communication part of interpersonal communication, all right? So yes, communication is transactional. You're going to see that in the first chapter of the book. Yes, communication is a sender and a receiver and decoding and encoding and all that kind of stuff. In fact, if you break it down, here's how communication actually works. It's really amazing when you think about it. Communication works like this. I, as a human being, can have a thought. And first of all, that by itself is something that's mind-blowing to even fathom. I don't fully understand what a thought is neurologically, but it looks something like electrical pulses and hormones and chemical weird stuff going on in our brains. But I can have a thought. And without even telling my body to do that, I can have that thought, and then if I want to verbalize it, okay, I'm not going to have to tell myself to do this, but I will have the thought, and then that signal will travel down my spinal cord. It will, without me thinking about it, it will tell me to expand my diaphragm to take in air. My diaphragm will then contract, and it'll push that air out my diaphragm, and then it'll travel up my body. It'll hit my voice box somewhere in my esophagus up here somewhere. And I don't fully understand that either. Okay, I'm not a biologist. Maybe I need to study that more. But it hits my vocal cords, and my vocal cords vibrate. And one of the things that is just amazing to me is that we all have our own unique voice. That's just crazy to me. But that air vibrates the vocal cords, and that vibration, those sound waves created in my voice box, travels up into my face, where this is where the representational system was there at the beginning because I think using the representational system, right? But now the representational system kicks back in, and I use the language that I'm given. I'm use the representational system that I understand, hopefully you understand, to then shape the sound waves in my mouth. Those sound waves come up, and I use the fat on my face, the muscle in my mouth, pressed against these hard things in my mouth to shape the sound waves in certain ways that my representational system tells me to shape them in, right? And those sound waves are linked to things in the world. Those sound waves fly out my face and they travel out into the world. Now this is where you hope there's no interference from a loud noise or something weird happening, a distraction, but it flies out your face, and somehow those sound waves can go. They hit your ear. Those sound waves hit your eardrum. Your eardrum picks up those sound waves. Those sound waves cause your eardrum to vibrate in a certain way. That vibration in your eardrum then travels back down your spinal cord and up to your brain, where hopefully we have the same representational system. You then receive that, decode it, and we arrive at shared meaning somehow. When you think about what happens just to say, hey, good morning to someone, it is amazing. And this is what happens when we communicate. When we communicate, it's not, yes, it is sending and receiving information, sure. It's having a thought and putting it out there, yes. It's nonverbal, absolutely, but there's more to it than that, okay? So I'm going to show you this definition of communication, okay? And I have the citation here for my own reference. You don't need it, okay? So a symbolic, communication is a symbolic process. So the symbolic process, I hope I just explained. It's symbolic because the symbols that we write, folks, are just symbols that have been decided upon. If I write T-A-B-L-E, you know what that is because you understand the symbolic process, okay? It's a symbolic process whereby reality is produced, maintained, repaired, and transformed. Now, this is little r reality, not big R reality, okay? Little r reality is what we're going to call later in the semester a second order reality, okay? Not a first order, a second order reality. So little r reality is, here's my example, okay? Big R reality is the sun is real, big R real. It's there, okay? And there's, nothing I can do a whole lot about it. Little r reality for me, though, is my understanding of the sun and how I relate and interact and make meaning of it. So I could say, big R reality is the sun is real. Little r reality is the sun is a god that I worship. That's my, right? I don't worship the sun, but do you see that? I can't do anything about the big R reality of the sun. Even if I was born and raised underground my entire life and never saw the sun would still be real. Make sense? I'm not talking about some, future apocalypse where the sun is burned out or whatever. I'm just talking about right now. If I were born and raised underground right now my entire life, the sun would still be real. Big R, real. But it would not exist in my little r reality. Or maybe it would, and I would just hear about it as this thing that exists beyond my understanding, right? So here's the thing. When we say that communication is a symbolic process whereby reality, it's the little r realities, okay, gets produced. You and I co-produce reality together when we communicate. That sending and receiving of those sound waves, that body language that we do where substitute light waves for sound, okay, and you have nonverbal communication. What happens is we co-produce reality together. This is why good communication can make a relationship a good place to be. Now, by the way, communication doesn't solve everything, but good communication can make a relationship a good place to be. Bad communication can make a relationship a bad place to be. This is why. It creates that little r reality that you're in. It produces it. Produces it is a better word, okay? So there's more at stake when we communicate than the transaction of information. And the rest of these concepts in this definition point to that. So we co-produce reality. We also maintain it. We maintain reality by calling a table and a chicken and not switching them around, right? We maintain reality. You maintain the emotional climate between two people. In an interpersonal relationship, if it's a romantic relationship, it's important to maintain that reality. So it's important for me to still say, hey, I love you, even though I've been in the relationship for a long, long time. It's maintenance. You have to maintain the reality, okay? Not just relational maintenance. You maintain the reality. It's a bigger thing than we think about. We repair reality. Now this is what's interesting. Pop quiz question here. If you cause harm with communication, what do you have to use to repair? Communication. Yes, that's what stinks. If you do damage with communication, you have to use communication to fix it. We repair reality. This is when we apologize and we own our mistakes and we help comfort someone who maybe we didn't hurt, but they're going through something difficult. We help repair reality between us or for someone else. Okay? And we transform. We can transform reality with our words, with our actions, and with the ways that we make meaning. Think about this. There are times in our lives where someone can completely transform your reality with either a bad or good set of communication. I don't know about you, but one of the biggest moments I can think of is that first I love you moment in a romantic relationship where you kind of been building to it a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're like, it's gonna fly out my face, I love you. From that moment, when you say those 3 little words, the reality between you and that other person are transformed regardless of what their response is. You cannot take that back. This is one of the reasons why, by the way, communication is irreversible. It produces reality. It's there. You got to deal with it. For me just saying, hey, how's it going, all the way up to, hey, I love you, that's there, and we have to deal with it. Now, there are way fewer consequences to deal with the, hey, how's it going, to the, hey, I love you, right? But when you say, I love you, that reality is produced, and it's completely transformed. That relationship has to deal with that moment, right? So there are moments in our communication where yes, we produce, yes, we maintain, yes, we repair, but we also can transform reality. So think about the times in your life when you've transformed someone's reality, or think about the times someone's transformed yours positively or negatively, simply with communication. I love you is one example, but there are a lot of others, okay? So, folks, I want to end this by saying how you communicate with others and with yourself impacts your realities. Communication is not just information transfer. It is this thing that builds the reality that we find ourselves in. Okay? There's more at stake when we are communicating than just sharing my thoughts or information transfer. Okay? We co-produce, co-maintain, co-repair, and co-transform reality together when we do this. And folks, this is an idea that we need to carry forward as we move through the rest of our semester. We're going to study a lot of different pieces of communication and the way that we see the world and the way we understand each other. And this idea that we co-produce, maintain, repair, and transform reality is going to be a thread I pull through surely all semester. Okay? We're going to be at the end of the semester, and I guarantee you I will reference this. Okay? I'll reference it just about in every single week. Okay? So don't forget this when it comes time to write application essays. Don't forget this when it comes time to choose your journal entries. Okay? You've got a lot of fodder here for really good reflection. Okay? I hope you've had a really great first week here in interpersonal communication. I will make sure that I am getting to know you in the discussion boards, and I will see you next time.